Welcome and thank you for joining San Diego Real Estate Talk with Rosita. I'm Rosita Perez, your host and realtor with Coldwell Banker Realty. We have been talking about real estate and divorce the past couple of sessions here. We talked about the challenges, and now we are unpacking solutions for the challenges. Today, we are going to be talking about financial responsibilities and financial motivation. And with us today is Christina Johnson. Hey, Christina.
Hi, how are you?
She's back. Christina has been a realtor for 25 years.
Yeah.
Don't let that young face fool you. She knows what she is doing, and she goes above and beyond for her clients. So today, Christina, let's talk about financial responsibilities.
Yeah, this is a big one. There's a lot to do with regards to the property and preparing before you prepare for it to sell. And we went through division of personal property. Now we have to get into financial responsibilities. Who is paying for what? You know, people still have to pay a credit card bill, and it's community property, so they're both responsible. Who's going to get which car and who's going to take over the payment? Who's going to stay in the residence and who's going to move out, and how are the costs for the home going to be divided? Also, a parenting plan for the children. So a parenting plan helps to dictate custody arrangements and child support. And also there needs to be an agreement on spousal support. So the reason why these things are so important are because in order to move forward, moving into another home, whether it be buying another property, renting another property, you have to be able to show your debts and your income. And lenders will tell you that you have to wait 6 months in order to use your child support and spousal support as income in order to qualify to buy another home or even qualify to refinance. Let's say that you want to keep the residence and both parties agree that keeping the home and keeping a stable home for the children to continue to go to school, maybe that's the most important thing. Your spouse will need that income in order to qualify to refinance and pay out your portion of the equity on the property. So all of these are important things and affect the motivation for both parties to move forward and decide whether they're going to keep the home or sell the home. Many people don't realize that you can actually buy before you sell. There are loan programs that accommodate that. And the benefit being that you could be moving into your new home and then the residence would be completely vacant and available to show, which means you're probably going to get a buyer a lot quicker.
Wow, that's a lot to unpack.
A lot of information.
Let me take a deep breath because it's so much to decide, right? Who's going to pay for what? Are we staying in the home? Are we moving out? Are we going to go rent? All of those things, I'm assuming they're going to be first talked about and negotiated with the attorneys.
Yes. So the purpose of bringing this up is to start that conversation as early as possible. Again, it sets the tone for cooperation through the divorce process that, attorneys are going to help you determine the amount of child support and the amount of spousal support. But oftentimes what we find is people rush to sell the home without really looking at the option of keeping the residence or without even agreeing on the spousal support or, what percentage of the retirement income you're going to get. These things really need to be dealt with before you sell the property.
Okay, so in terms of being a realtor, which part of all that can we help clients with?
I think the first question is, before we sell your home, have you guys already agreed on the spousal support or child support? Because that's going to determine whether or not they can qualify to refinance and pay out the other party and not sell the home, or whether they're going to either be renting or buying another residence.
So super important not to just act on emotion and move out.
Yeah.
I know how difficult it is to live in a home where you know you and your spouse are moving towards divorce. And at the same time, in order to set yourself up, I'm going to say, and your children up for being able to move forward in a home, it is the best thing to do to wait and get the attorneys involved for the spousal support, child support, who's going to pay for what. That is essential to get situated before you decide to move out. And I know, I get how hard it is to stay, but it will be beneficial.
And worst case, if it is extremely contentious and you can't live in the same residence, there are certain circumstances where they cannot be in the same place. Don't rush to sell until these other things are resolved. There's oftentimes one party who's pushing more than the other, and it creates a lot of stress and a lot of havoc. And then it actually disrupts the home selling process, because if one spouse is owed money and, from division of property that hasn't been handled, there's so many things that could happen, and something hasn't been settled, and the one spouse was supposed to pay their share from the net proceeds. You can see, like, if they've released the funds to the spouse, how do you get the money that you're owed? All of these things tie in. So don't rush to sell until you've completed all the proper steps of your divorce. Just go through the process one step at a time.
Yes. And before we even move into listing the property and selling it, because then you will have security, right?
Yes.
Whether you're going to stay there or whether you need to start finding a home.
Yeah. And that's something people need to think about too, is if you're not living in the home and you're pushing to sell the property and the other party is still living in the home, there needs to be some financial motivation for them as well to allow the property to be shown and to move on. And if all of these things are unsettled, how can they move forward into another residence if they don't even know what income they're going to have coming in?
That can cause a lot of stress, especially if you are the one who will be having the children.
Yes, exactly.
And all that is discussed and negotiated with the attorneys.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, I have had people who have been amicable and they've been able to come to an agreement on their own, and that they can use self-help divorce attorney. And there's actually free services through the court system that will help you determine child support and spousal support. So there are free avenues that you can use that will help you and save you time and save you money.
So if you have a divorced couple in front of you, first of all, do you meet with both of them or is it one at a time?
It's typically been one at a time. It's an emotional and difficult situation. Very few times have I had both people been like, we're best friends and we're getting divorced. It's not typically like that. It's typically there's some bitterness, some bad feelings, some contention. It's very emotional. I have had people who are way too emotional to be in the same room with the other spouse. So I will always meet with people one-on-one, and I always disclose that everything that I share with one party as far as the sale of a home is shared with the other. Personal stories, personal feelings, those are confidential. It's like being a therapist. There are just some things you don't share.
Yes, absolutely. So if you have, let's say, the husband in front of you, what would you advise him at this stage?
Well, I mean, first I would ask them both, husband and wife, where they're at in the divorce proceedings. Has support already been negotiated and agreed upon? And if they say no, I would just say I highly recommend that we navigate this first, and then I'll stay in touch with you. And once that's been established, we can talk about a timeline for preparing the home for sale and when we're going to put it on market.
Yes, timelines are super important, especially in the divorce proceedings, because a lot of times there are like, you should sell the home by this date. But if one person in the marriage does not cooperate, that pushes it out even longer. So
Yes.
it's so important to be amicable as much as you can. And at this point, it's a business decision. You are prepping for your new normal. I'm going to put it like that. And the emotional part about it as well, right? You're already going through enough. And then if you have kids involved, you really have to keep yourself stable to be able to go through this so that the kids aren't as affected.
I think both people need to keep in mind that no matter what they feel, if there's children involved, that the most important thing is that the kids see their parents cooperating together and not like it doesn't help your children to have a financially stressed out mom. So if there's any part or financially stressed out dad, we have dads that are the primary caregivers of their children. So if that's the case, just try to remember that the quicker you can move forward with these things and come to an agreement, the faster your children will have a financially stable parent and a happy parent. And that's going to actually lead through to the quality of life your children are having. So that's a really important reminder. Stressed parents create stressed children.
That is great advice, Christina. Now, we want to let you know that you are not alone. We both have been through this. We are here to guide you, to answer your questions. So, Christina, how can people reach out to you?
858-334-9422. That's my direct cell phone number.
And my number is 619-665-9086. Please contact us, email us, text us your questions, and let's just connect because you are not alone. And we have other resources that can help you, like therapists. And I'm actually a coach as well, a self-discovery coach. And I've been through the divorce, so I understand the stages that you might go through. And Christina is a therapist in her own right. So we can help you. Don't feel like you're alone. Don't feel like you've got to put on the cape and just muddle through it. You don't have to muddle. Let's get you connected. Let's get you resources and all that you need to be able to move forward. And sometimes it's just a listening ear. Thank you so much for joining me, Christina. That's all the time that we have today. We'll be back next week for the next challenge with a solution. I'm Rosita Perez. I'm your host and realtor with Coldwell Banker. Christina Johnson, realtor extraordinaire for 25 years. When you have questions, please reach out. We thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next week. Bye.